Mogotsi has exposed more than expected. He called names of 3 suspects nobody knew had serious allegations against Mkhwanazi that were silently killed. He also exposed how Mkhwanazi and King Misuzulu benefited from Richards Bay coal terminal. He revealed things nobody knew about Matlala, but eventually left in tears when he tried to lie. Hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. Watch the bombshell now.
I don't understand the question.
How did they know to come and approach you, and how did you become involved in all of this?
Obviously, I said the colleague of my handler from Nongoma, they were talking and they said they've tried to open cases 3-4 times. The cases could not either be registered or the case could not be investigated. And through, in this intelligence circle, you'll have one brigadier, maybe in the Eastern Cape, who has a knowledge, who will refer a person to another brigadier in Gauteng and stuff like that. So they were referred to open a case. That's why the case was immediately transferred to KZN.
It's not something that you picked up during your investigations into him being a CIA agent that led you to become involved in this. This is not related.
No, it's the handler who brings the information to say another person in Nongoma, they are sending people here to come and open a case because the cases cannot be opened in KZN.
Okay, so in paragraph 36, you mentioned that you traveled to Kenya. You've also just stated that you've attached a copy of your passport, or provided us a copy of your passport that confirms that you did in fact travel to Kenya. And we have attached it in the bundle, in the annexure bundle. It's not numbered, but it's at the very end of the annexure bundle, the last 2 pages, I believe. Members will see there's a copy of Mr. Mogotsi's passport that indicates there are stems of his travels on the 10th and the 11th of September. So just before we move on to the next issue, is there anything in relation to what the outcome of your travels that you'd like to put on record, your discussions with George that confirmed your suspicions about General Mkhwanazi?
Yeah, as things stands now, I can never say indeed the suspicions are correct, because after I briefed the late former minister, who also spoke of him coming to Matlala at that time, and that George, he has a knowledge about these operations of the CIA in Southern Africa, but he could not give me something tangible to produce.
Okay. Now, in paragraph 38 of your statement, you speak of General Mkhwanazi, and you say that you've learned that all his suspects do not make it out alive, and they basically denied the right to a fair trial. Now, that's a very serious allegation, but it's not quite clear what you mean by that. Do you want to elaborate on what you mean?
It's not that I learned. Everyone knows what happened in KZN. Every time we hear they were fighting back with the police, they never come back alive. Every time. And I don't say they must shoot the police, but in that shooting, you'll never find one police has been shot in the head or something. Every time the suspect don't get a fair trial to appear in court. That's my point.
That's in your statement that it seems to suggest something strong. It says that I came to learn that all General Mkhwanazi suspects did not make it out alive. You're saying that every person he arrests does not make it out alive and does not get a chance to have a fair trial.
I think one of the reasons crime cannot go down in many instances. Where there is death penalty in certain countries, people do go to court, fair trial, found guilty, convicted, and sentenced. But in a scenario where every time the criminals, and I'm not saying these criminals must go and do all these things, I'm just saying they should be arrested and appear before court. And you cannot have a democracy where every time, and as if the crime in the Western Cape does happen, Northern Cape in many places, but suspects do get arrested, others get away, get identified, and get arrested. But the ones for these people, they will not, every time, and they don't get a chance to shoot back. I don't say they must shoot back. I'm just saying there's never evidence to know where these criminals comes from, because they get killed before you get whoever who's sending them or the big people behind them.
Yeah, but sorry, Honorable Mara, but you, in paragraph 37, you are making a series of events that you conducted Minister Mthethwa, former Minister Mthethwa, who died under suspicious circumstances. And the following paragraph is the one that says you have Israel. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
So when they were intervening, His Majesty and Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, they are intervening in order to do what? In order to make sure that the coal continues to be sent in big volumes to Israel, or intervening against the people who were intending to block that coal going to Israel.
Yeah.
And who were those people?
Yeah, what I've raised earlier was that even so, the same phrase, they were in engagement. The intention from the discussion was that it seems the plan was to contract these Chinese to also utilize the terminal, as opposed to those that are in transporting to Israel. Now the conflict started there, and the case was precisely open because, according to them, the PKTT members or General Mkhwanazi was sending a lot of police to harass them, to threaten them. And in those altercations, they'll keep making reference to the coal. Now the case were open 2 or 3 times in KZN, and the matters could not be investigated, matters gone anyway. That's how they got in touch through my handler to come and open case routing.
So what is the role of the king in that case? Because in your statement, you are making references to the fact that we know there is a litigation, a legal dispute relating to the Zulu kingdom. Now you are making references to the fact that the side of the Zulu family, if we were to put it that way, which is backing up Prince Smakate to become the king, got abused and harassed by PKTT members. And you are saying that harassment is as a result of the loyalty of His Majesty King Misuzulu Zwelithini to the Israelis.
No,
How do we connect that?
because these other ones, the intention was to do the contract through the Chinese.
Which one? The Smakate?
The Smakate.
They were going to be part of the contract with the Chinese.
The Chinese, and the power of the KZN provincial like police was influenced to harass them from making that decision. Now, if you check, I remember he was asked this question as to, do you have the authority to sign this contract, because they say there's the Majesty who could possibly sign on behalf of the kingdom. And he said that particular portion in terms of whatever belongs as part of his rights. Yeah.
You know, there's a line of discussion that Advocate Muisa was following with you. And all of
You were trying to explain how he came to your aid in funding the litigation.
No. It's the impression you are now, as evidence leader, you are no more leading me. You are bringing things that we never, discussed, and you are bringing things that I never spoke on media. Chairperson, I am not sure if the evidence leader is still interested to lead.
Should we play the clip that would make, because I don't want any misunderstanding in relation to what was said in there. And if my understanding is incorrect, I'm willing to accept that, and you can clarify it, and then we move on.
I think you had access to the exhibit bundles where financial assistance for that particular case came from. It did not come from Matlala. They are there in the exhibit bundles. Everything, how much was paid going to the lawyer, it was funded by one person. Matlala never paid a cent.
No, this is
Unless you say, if I lie to journalists, then I lie to them. But I never said he never gave us money for any court. If your understanding is I was lying.
No, like I said, I mean, I might have understood it wrong, but we can play the clip at a later stage when we, I don't want to interrupt it now, but it's not an exhibit that shows how much was paid. It was a conversation that I'm trying to get your comment on. And like I said, if there's misunderstandings on my part from what I'm hearing, I'm happy for you to correct that.
Yes, but it can be played, there's no problem. But I wonder what will be, what is it that will assist with if it has to do with financial assistance, whereas he did not pay any cent? Because the money was paid by a certain individual, not him.
Okay. But what we were trying to establish by that is not so much the fact that he paid for it, but the fact that you knew him before this. So it's really difficult to say that I was trying to understand how you would go to the DNC General Sibia and ask him to get closer to Matlala when you've said on other platforms that he's done this and the other. So it's really strange. Why would you need a third person to come in and create a closer link with him?
Thank you, Chair. The intention was to get the endorsement and involvement of the DNC on a project. That's why you have to talk to him. And a project that is done in a national office, you will need someone in the national office to work with. And if you go into my WhatsApps, and so you will start to realize there was even a time when I spoke to Matlala mentioning General Sibia. It's because that kind of arrangement was important for him to be involved in that.
Okay, just a second. Honorable Malema.
No, thanks, Chair. I was saying the playing of that video is relevant in as much as you have taken an oath. So if you are found to be lying, you know what are the implications about it. So it's not irrelevant for her to ask that it be played to prove that you said you are grateful of receiving the money from Matlala. So it should be played.
Thank you, Chair.
Noted. Thank you. Proceed, Honorable Advocate Maria.
Were you investigating? You mentioned in your statement, maybe I should refer you to paragraph 93 to 120. That's where you make reference to Mr. Matlala. And you say that you were investigating him. What were you investigating?
No, it is also a similar information that there was a tender similar, like the one in health in Mafike, in the Northwest. There was information that the tender is coming. It was going to be won by so-and-so. That was during the previous administration. And in my statement, this was talk of March, April. You know, and it was also mentioned that whoever and former Minister Bheki Cele, they are working around that he must be appointed. Now from then, because we knew, my handler said, let's wait because there are elections coming because of this information. And few people, including in some committees in South African Police Service, were confirming that indeed this tender was closely to be awarded. So that investigation started there. It's written that it is only after the parliamentary list of the ANC when it came out that we realized that former Minister Bheki Cele was not in the parliamentary list, and we knew already he was not going to be back in government and possibly a minister. And that's how I was also advised by my handler that we should wait until after the elections, and that's what we did.
So you started investigating Mr. Matlala because of the suspicion that former Minister Cele was involved in the tender.
Made it 24. Yes, we made it 24.
Okay, but you then continued to investigate him, and that is what you say in your statement throughout, that your engagement with him was because you were busy with investigations.
And that's correct.
So what have you uncovered since you started investigating him? What meaningful information did you gather in relation to Mr. Matlala?
You know, you be a chairperson. Matters that are subject to investigation, how do I talk about them here? How do I say, no, we discovered this or that? And I expose whoever who is perhaps involved. He will know who did he deal with and how that information came out.
You freely.
Yes.
Why?
I mean, isn't that personal?
Matter, personal.
Can you ask
Are
me
most
for
one,
no. To say why?
maybe Kastwana made a
No.
personal.
If me and somebody had a fight and he died,
Oh,
and you ask me why?
I'm asking what happened.
No, there was a fight.
There
It's
was
not
a
that
fight.
it was an intentional.
Did you shoot that person?
No, it was physical. And he fell on his neck.
Fell, okay.
Yes.
All right. And then that case was dropped.
That case was finally was dropped.
It was dropped
Yes.
as a self-defense.
No, it was not. If a self-defense, it means I was found not guilty.
Were
It's
you
not
found guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay, let's go back there. That
I'm
case was
saying
dropped.
If you say self-defense, it means I was found not guilty. The court found out that it was not an intentional killing. But if it was dropped, it means it was withdrawn.
Was sound confused. Are you saying you were charged?
Yes, and the matter was
And then-
withdrawn.
The matter was withdrawn.
That's correct.
Were you found guilty?
No,
But the case was dropped.
the case was withdrawn.
On what basis?
I don't know what was the thing.
And which court was this?
It's in Mabatu.
This handler of yours, was he involved in getting that
No.
case dropped?
No.
The handler
There
that
was
passed,
no,
that
and the
passed on?
witnesses, no, there were no witnesses. The other witness could not come to court.
There were no witnesses. Hold that thought. There were no witnesses, Chair. Please hold on, Shongwe. Honorable Mvalo.
Yeah, no, it's a follow-up, Chair. Thank you very much. I just want to establish at what point was the case withdrawn? Was it enrolled?
Yes, it was enrolled. It went to court, set for trial, and it was withdrawn. Because of the part of the witness. Well, the thing is, I did not really hear what was the purpose of withdrawal, but I was in court.
So when you say it was withdrawn, you mean it was withdrawn by the prosecution,
By the state, yes.
by the prosecutor?
Yes.
So they didn't communicate the decision to you, I mean, the reason for withdrawal?
It must have been written on the docket. I was there in court and the matter was withdrawn.
At the time when the matter was withdrawn, where were you? Were you in
court.
prison or
No, I
outside?
was in court.
You were out on bail? No,
Yes, in bail.
on bail. You are
Yes.
out on bail.
That's correct.
So you are saying the witnesses did not attend?
No, there was no witness. Well, the day when I was in court, there was no witness. And the second time, from the statement of the witness, because remember, the incident happened between me and this person. It was only me and him. So the state did not actually have the necessary case to prove.
Did you plead?
No, I did not plead.
You did not plead.
Yes.
So how were you going to plead to the case? Because the way you are
Not
narrating
guilty.
it, the way you are narrating it here,
Yeah.
you are saying you knew what happened to him. You had a fight and then he
Yes.
passed on.
Yes.
So
I was-
is that the same evidence you are going to give in court?
Yes, but it was not an intentional. He fell on his
Yes.
leg.
But I'm saying you are not going to deny the merits that
No,
he
I
died
won't.
because you had a physical fight
Yes, I
and
wouldn't
he did
deny.
not survive.
Yes.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, Honorable Shongwe.
Just a second, Chair.
Okay. Wait.